Doeren here. Can I count you in here? Oh, all right, stand by. Let's get ready to go live.
All right. Hope everybody's doing good, and welcome to signing day. Really excited about this group of young men, and before I talk about them, I just want to thank first and foremost our coaches, and my assistants are on this at the end. If any of you have questions for them, they'll stay on, and you can say their name, and they'll get on and answer any of your questions about any of the specific guys. But to thank them for all their work. Having 5 new coaches on our staff and not being able to showcase their personalities and system changes, how they coach during spring practice, I thought, was difficult. And so we had to do a lot of virtual recruiting, and these guys did a tremendous job. They worked hard to build relationships, stay in touch with not only the families, but the coaches. And so a lot went into it that was very different, in signing a class. Very different. And our recruiting staff is unbelievable. It's grown, over the 8 years I've been here. But to be where it is now, Billy Glasscock, what he does, organizing things and bringing in the right people to assist and help and put their creative spin on things. And there's so many of them. Mercy Fillet is a former athlete here, has been with us now for several years. Does a tremendous job, not only building relationships, but giving the tours and being a former athlete here and student, knows this place inside and out. JJ Doherty and Matt and Austin, Monday Tatum. There's just so many people that work behind the scenes helping us. And then what Chanel and Emmett do graphically and through video to tell our story was the difference, in my opinion. Just our ability to talk about us, our ability to sell our brand, to talk about our coaches, our program, the things that we stand for, the things that we believe in, and not be able to do that in person, but to have to do it either through Zoom or through edits or through video story. Just want to say thank you to that staff. And I think they did an unbelievable job. And so very fortunate to have them here with us and building this class. And hopefully it's the last time we have to recruit virtually for an entire class, but we'll see. But this is a class of young men that, represented by 11 in-state players, and 3 from the state of Georgia, 1 from Florida, 2 from Virginia, 1 from South Carolina, and 1 from New Jersey, 19 total. And 1 transfer that I can talk about today, and we'll get into all that as we go through it. But it's a good class. It starts with meeting your needs. It starts with, we always talk about recruiting guys that are like great players that you've had or have, or better, to continue to improve your roster competitively, but also, to bring in things that we may not have, adding more speed or adding more size or adding more depth. All of these young men are super competitive. Many of them are all conference players, 12 of them, as a matter of fact. And obviously some of these guys didn't get to play this season because in North Carolina, as you know, they didn't have a high school season. But we're captains, and, there's some background in the NFL with some of their parents. And so for us, it was about trying to get them to understand what we're all about, what the hard, tough together mantra is, and finding young men that want to be a part of that. D'Antonio Burnett and our strength staff normally do a ton of in-person things on unofficial visits. They had to do that through Zoom and did a great job. I think Ashley Grigsby, our academic advisor that oversees football, did a great job, explaining things to parents and young men about how they're going to be supported here. So, in a normal setting, I'd be showing you video. I guess you guys will have to do that on your own. But, it's a class that we're very proud of, and a bunch of guys that fit kind of our culture and excited about working with them. They know they need to work hard and develop and be a part of what the coaches here and players here have created from a cultural standpoint. So I'm going to open it up for questions and let you guys kind of hit me on the different guys you want to ask me about, and then the assistants can jump in here at the end.
All right, use your raise hand if you have a question. Mark Armstrong, go ahead.
As you've already detailed, Dave, it's an entirely unique process you've had to go through. What's your degree of confidence you've made the right selections and the right guys are coming to Raleigh?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of homework that goes into these guys. Most of them, we have met at some point in time, whether they were here as an underclassman or, some of them we've seen a ton of times because they're in state. But, we do believe in meeting people face to face if possible. So when you can't do that, then there's been a lot of virtual conversation, a lot of Zoom, a lot of FaceTime. You still get to watch the same amount of tape regardless, talk to the coaches regardless, talk to counselors or principals or whoever you need to speak to. Those kind of things happened. But, being able to size a guy up, there was a lot of photography involved, where guys would send pictures and maybe you'd get a workout somebody would send to you that you would watch. But we did everything we could, and I think that's all you can do is your best. And getting to know these guys, that's one thing we don't do is try to sell them anything. We tell them who we are. We tell them what we're about. Our coaches get to know them. And, I feel really good about that part of it, that they know what they're getting and we know what we're getting. The biggest part, as you know, is when they get here, it's continuing to work hard and trying to prove yourself and start over per se, I guess, coming out of a high school where you're the guy and having to prove yourself all over again. That's part of the process. But these are competitive young men that we're excited about coaching.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Todd Gibson, what you got?
Yeah, Coach, the season that you guys are having, how much has that helped you guys as well?
It helps. Obviously, a lot of these kids were committed before the games even started. Some of them, were in the middle of the season or later, but most of them weren't. I think the biggest thing it does is helps you retain the guys that are committed. I think when you have 15 or so guys commit early, and then if you don't win, you tend to lose some of those guys, and so what it does is strengthen that connection they have to the school they want to play for, seeing that they're going to win. I mean, and like I've said to you guys before, in the last 4 years, we've finished in the top 4 in this league 3 times now. And so to show everybody that we're back on the right train and on the right tracks with this program, I think was important. It would have been great for us to have spring ball and fall camp where kids could come and watch the changes to our systems that took place. They had to wait till the game started. And in some cases, it didn't matter. Guys, were okay. In other cases, it probably hurt us. There was probably some players that we might have gotten that made decisions early because they couldn't see, what was going to change in our offense. How were we going to run it? What was going to change in our defense? What would be different about it? And so, but I think you could probably say that for every college out there. I do think the one thing that's hard about this for us, I think NC State, it's a gym, and it's a beautiful place and it's an incredible city. And people didn't get to see that as much. They didn't get to see game day when it's just crazy in our stadium, so those are things that can help us down the road, and so some of these guys had been here as underclassmen, already knew what the atmosphere was like, and it helped. Some of them are, looking at videos of it and kind of betting on that, but it's a unique time for everybody.
And also, Coach, the in-state recruiting obviously has always been important to NC State and you in particular. Do you feel really good about the kids that you hauled in from North Carolina?
Yeah, I do. Every year we want to get the best we can from the state. Not that we're not going to look outside the state. We do. We recruit outside the state hard, but we always start within our borders and, feel really good about these guys. They wanted to stay home. They wanted their families to be a part of the process. They're excited about what we talk about. And really the thing that we can sell to them is factual evidence of just the success that our in-state kids have had here compared to in-state kids that leave and play out of state that don't get on the field, don't make it to the NFL. Our guys have had a higher percentage of success by staying home and letting their families be a part of it and being a part of our developmental program. So, that's the nice thing when you're out of school, as long as I have been, you're not talking about things you can't give them data on.
James Henderson.
Yeah, Dave, the free year through the transfer portal, How do you feel that's going to impact recruiting going forward? And did that play a role in how you recruited this class?
Can you repeat the beginning of that? The free year?
The being able to transfer without sitting, right? It's kind of changed a little bit with how maybe players determine if they should transfer or not. How do you
Right.
think that's going to impact recruiting going forward?
Well, it hasn't passed yet. I mean, right now people are just assuming it will. Once it is official, then we'll just have to see how it changes things. You know, I think it really just becomes another form of junior college recruiting where you're trying to fill in spaces on your roster that for whatever reason aren't full. You know, maybe you had a junior that got injured and now you have a senior and 2 freshmen and you want to put another guy in there that's a little bit older. It just becomes kind of that stopgap, I guess you will, where you can get a guy. It's really just going to be a different form of it. And until I see it in full flow, I can't give you a great answer. You know, I think there's a lot of things, unfortunately, about the portal that are misleading and really not well thought out right now. There's not enough scholarships out there for these kids that are going into it, and we don't have enough initials to sign the number of kids that are going to leave programs. There's going to be a lot of guys out there that don't get scholarships right now. So we're just going to have to see. I think there's going to be a lot of things that have to get tweaked NCAA wise to make this system work.
And you did add one transfer in Zavala. What did you like about him?
Very physical, very aggressive. You know, he's a finisher. Obviously a decorated player at the school he's at. His mom actually works at NC State, so he's a young man that wanted to be here. Had family ties to the university, but we're looking for an experienced guy that wants to compete at a high level, is going to come in with a chip on his shoulder, and he has all the tools.
Thanks.
Jonas.
Hey, Coach. Appreciate you taking the time and speaking with us as always. I wanted to ask about one of the guys I think is a very intriguing prospect in Zion Reeves. He was a basketball player for so long, and he came over to football. Can you kind of talk about the product you saw on the field from him in this 1 year, and then the upside he has? Because obviously you can't teach 6'7", but he hasn't been playing football as long as some of these other guys.
Yeah, you know, I was at the state championship game a year ago. They were playing Cardinal Gibbons. My son was on that team. And so I was watching the game, and this kid just kept making plays. And so I'm looking at the roster, and I'm like, who is this guy? You know, because I had a list of players to watch in the game from our recruiting staff. And he made a bunch of plays, you know. And so as the game went on, I'm texting, you know, Billy and the staff, who is this guy, number whatever he was at the time. He's making plays. He's sacking the quarterback. He looks gigantic. They had him listed at 6'7" or 6'6", whatever it was. And then we got the background, you know, that this was his first year playing football. And I'm like, well, we got to get some detail on this kid because he's really athletic. He's long. He plays hard. He's got a great upside. And so as we got to know him, you know, and learn the story, it's just a guy that, you know, was on the basketball court that a good recruiter at the high school figured out that they needed him on the defensive line over there at East Forsyth. And so, you know, we were able to get in on him early, and Coach Wiles did a nice job, you know, getting him to understand what it takes to play that position. He wanted to be with coaches that could develop him. And I think, you know, between Thunder and our weight room and his staff and Coach Wiles with what he's done with defensive linemen, this was the right fit for him.
Have you ever offered a guy who's only played 1 year and, you know, doesn't have much background with football?
Yeah, you know, there's been several guys over the course of my career that you've kind of find that way. Particularly when I was 1AA, you know, you would take more chances on guys, but there's quite a few of them out there that go from basketball to football late and end up being really good.
Schnicker.
Dave, you mentioned already the success that you can point to that some of the guys who have come through your program have had. When you look at guys recently like a Bradley Chubb or Nyheim Hines, guys who are succeeding in the NFL right now, how much does that help in recruitment to be able to point to that and say, you know, if you come to this program and you put the time in, this is what you can make for yourself?
I think it helps, you know, when you're showing the vision for your program and it's a blueprint and you can show before and afters. It's not a, like I said, you're not selling anything. I mean, this is our program. Here's the guys that have been through it. Here's what happens to them. Here's where they are now. And I can do it in life. I can do it in academics. I can do it in NFL. We can do it in a lot of ways. And moving a player from offense to defense or defense to offense and how that worked out, position changes, how that worked out. So, we've got a lot of information here over 8 years that kind of tells our story and helps these young men, I think, make informed decisions as opposed to just listening to some guy sell them something, and I think that's really good. If I was making a decision like these guys are, I would want a lot of really strong information to make it. And so we try to provide that and have, the substance behind the things we're talking about.
David Thompson.
Hey, Dave, thanks for the time. You mentioned that, North Carolina high school players haven't had a season yet. A lot of them now are just going to, go that season. What are your thoughts just on them missing that year and what are your concerns about them sort of transferring from a junior year of high school to Division I football?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to get the rust off of them. And, I think how in shape they are. Some of them have probably trained really hard and some of them haven't, and so it's going to take a little bit probably to get some of these guys going. I really feel for them, first of all. I think all the high school kids right now are missing out in a lot of ways. The social growth, the academic growth, the athletic growth, the competition, the adversity that they get, by playing sports, the team building that they aren't getting. And so I feel for them, and I'm hopeful that all these young men that are going off to college and going early can find success and walk in and understand how hard it's going to be. It isn't easy coming in early, going to college, period. That first semester is a challenge. It's a big transition in your life. And so we've got a lot of people here to help them with that. But to your point, I think there will be some things lost in their development. Anytime you miss a season of sports, regardless of what year it is, it's going to be a little bit different on the back end of that, so we'll see how that goes, without having seen it and what it really does. It's hard to give you an exact part, but I do think guys missing their senior year of high school has to have some kind of impact on them a little bit there when it comes to, like, some of them would have been captains this year, and had that experience as leaders, and now they missed that, so there's a lot of things that they didn't get.
Sure. And just a quick follow-up, just to look ahead or stay on this season real fast. There's been so many ACC teams that have opted out from bowl games. Have you guys made a definitive decision on whether you're going to play?
Oh yeah, we're playing. Our guys are excited. Yeah, no, they're excited to play. Our coaches are excited to play. Unless, COVID takes the opportunity away from us, we plan on playing and we look forward to playing.
Matt Carter.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, Coach, can you kind of talk about the quarterback, Aaron McLaughlin? What really stood out about him and drew him to you?
I've seen Aaron for a long time. He was at a different high school, prior to being where he's at Denmark. First thing you notice is his size, his arm strength. He came to one of our camps early in his high school career and ran really well, ran in the 4.6s. So he's very gifted from an athletic standpoint. When he transferred to Denmark, he came up and visited, and I asked him about it, because Buford was such kind of a powerhouse program down there. And he looked at it as an opportunity, to go somewhere. And it wasn't about the name. It was about him helping build a program. And that was important to him. And that stood out to me. You don't hear that a lot from kids his age. And then when Coach Palmieri got a chance to coach him, from Mallard Creek, went down there and became his head coach this year. I've got a history with him, and he had great things to say about Aaron, and Aaron, great things to say about Mike. It just seemed like a great fit, for our program. And obviously I know Coach Beck's excited. Coach Roper knew a lot about him prior to that. And I've been recruiting him on and off, I guess you would say, since he was in 9th grade. So we know quite a bit about Aaron. We're grateful, that he opened his recruiting back up and came to his senses, to join the
Just a quick follow-up. I'm sorry if I may. How did the free year of eligibility, how is that going to impact the numbers going forward?
Yeah, it's a question I can't answer. I think the NCAA is going to have to help us with that. It doesn't impact our 85, so any of the kids that were out of eligibility that now have a year and are coming back are just extras. Obviously, the school, it impacts us financially, paying for those scholarships. But I don't know how many of our guys are doing that quite yet. It's not official with anybody. Really, where it gets tricky, I think, is, we have 19 freshmen, I guess you'd say, or 18 freshmen in this class coming in. And then last year's class is technically considered freshman again. And so you have two classes in the same classification. And so it's really, how is that going to play out over a 5-year window with your numbers? And so the NCAA's got a lot of things they need to look at. They're the ones that granted this year, and now they've created kind of a log jam, I guess you would say, on how we're supposed to classify and look at our numbers. And so we'll see what they end up doing. Until then, we'll just keep on going.
Jonas.
Coach, I got 2 questions for you. One serious, one not so serious. Okay, so I'll go with the serious one first. 3 sets of high school teammates on this roster. I mean, in this class, and obviously 2 of them are brothers. But you also have a lot of high school teammates on your current roster. Is there something to that, recruiting guys who play together, or is it just a coincidence and not that big of a deal?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it. I do think there's, in some cases, we try to recruit from winning programs. And so if we get a kid from a place that wins, there's other good players there, we keep going back. In some cases, we really respect, how things are run at that school. East Forsyth is a great example. I think Coach Willard does an unbelievable job. But, you have success and you get a player from there and you love how he's built, how he's wired, and, those kind of things tend to lead to other players. Sometimes there's just kids on your team that help you. Hey man, my former teammate really wants to look at you guys, and then they end up wanting to play together. And so they kind of help the recruiting process because of their friendship. But obviously when it comes to brothers, I mean, that one's a little bit more mom and dad want their sons together. But, it's interesting how that works out. I haven't really studied that, how many kids we have from the same high school on our team, but it's something for us to look at.
Okay, and so my not so serious question of the day is, I was watching the film from Thornton Gentry.
Yeah.
And like the very last clip, he catches a touchdown pass. So I was just wondering, is Icky like in trouble for that spot of like pass catching offensive lineman now?
Yeah, well, I don't think Icky's in trouble. He's got really good hands. I think that's a play that we're going to have to probably wait a couple years to run again, first of all. But we'll definitely have it back in before Icky's gone. We need to get him in the end zone, and then hopefully Thornton can be the next one. We'll see. It was great when we got Bradbury a touchdown his last year here, and anytime we can get a big man in the end zone, I think it sends a great message, to those guys that work so hard that don't get much credit. So we'll have to try to get with Coach Beck for the bowl game. Maybe we can find a way to come up with a big man touchdown here down the stretch.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right, last question for Coach Doeren, Gary Hahn.
Hey, Dave, it's probably pretty rare to have a single player ranked nationally in the top 40 as a corner and in the top 25 as a wide receiver. You've got Micah Crowell listed as a wide receiver. Can you talk about him a little bit? And is that the position he wanted to play, or is that where you need him the most?
No, that's what he is. He'd be a big corner, tell you that. But he's a very versatile guy on offense. He's a really good receiver. He's big, so he can do a lot of different things at that position. I think he's also a good runner with the ball. I mean, you can see him carrying the ball a lot if you watch his highlights on jets and out of the backfield. So there's a lot of versatility there with him, and with his size, it allows you to be creative and do some different things with him around the box too. So that's definitely where he's going to play.
All right, Coach, thank you very much.
All right, thank you guys. Go Pack.
And if anybody had assistant coaches, and Billy Glasscock, our head of recruiting, are on here. So if you guys have questions for them, raise your hand and we'll get it taken care of. Schnicker, what you got?
Question for Coach Beck with McLaughlin coming in now too, and looking at some of the younger QBs you already have on your roster, with Devin having a few years left and Ben, just how excited are you about the future of the quarterback position at NC State right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're starting to fill the cupboard, that's for sure, and getting a lot of great, not only great players, great young men. That's one thing. Dave talked a lot about Aaron. Not only is he a big guy that can run with a strong arm, very competitive, smart guy, and just a great person. So he's going to come in here and push the guys, which is good. And so you love competition. Everybody knows that every day when they come to work or they come to the office, they got to put their best foot forward, and the cream's going to rise to the top. So I'm excited to see the competition and see the guys compete.
Jonas, what you got?
I wanted to, I don't know if I see him. Oh yeah, I want to ask Coach Wise about Zion. Obviously, he's a guy like Coach Doeren just said. He hasn't been playing football long, but what are you looking forward to the most in working with a guy who doesn't have that much experience, but you can kind of mold him and kind of train him into that position?
Charlie, you're muted.
Appreciate that, John. You're the only man looking out for me. Unlimited potential. A guy who I watched come out for his first spring football practice out at East Forsyth, and watched him, and then the growth that he had, just not only from a production standpoint, but really learning the game. Coach Willard, I know, does a tremendous job. They coach him. So obviously, I think he has a football IQ. So you got a real nice package, a kid that could be a giant too. I mean, he's long, he's 250 pounds right now, and easily could be, a 280-pound kid here in a year or two. So the unlimited, I think, potential excites me the most. And then, he's raw, and being able to develop a kid like that, and could really come in and no telling what he could turn into. So very excited.
Because he has that basketball background, how much does that help into his football skills on the field?
Well, I think anytime in recruiting, you go watch a kid play and run the hardwood and play basketball, it shows the athleticism or lack thereof. So Zion having that, ability. Now, I've never seen him play basketball, but obviously he was a very important piece of their basketball program, and because he's so big and long. But the guys that I've always recruited, they play basketball. It really stands out how athletic they are, or how not. So and you see a lot of guys translate from basketball to football. So
James Henderson, what you got?
Yeah, this is for Coach Gibson. Tony, you signed 2 linebackers in this class, and obviously you had a scheme that you needed to sell to them before seeing the product this year, and you were able to get those 2 commitments, I believe, before getting on the field. Just talk about both Caden and Jordan, and how you feel like they fit in what you guys do.
Yeah, I think that both of those kids fit our scheme really well. They're very athletic. Both of those guys are converted safeties, play a lot on offense, do a lot of different things on the field. So, Caden has played Wildcat quarterback. Obviously, Jordan's played some tailback. Those guys got great ball skills, just great football sense and savvy. They're very athletic. And I think that they really, we did a lot of Zooming and watching film, just talking to them, talking through the scheme. We've had them in camp. So I think that they realized what they were stepping into, and being able to show them some guys in the past that had success in this scheme, they're really excited about it. So really looking forward to both of those guys, and they're both mid-year. So looking for them guys to get a lot of reps in the spring, and they're going to both have great careers here.
Appreciate it.
Alec.
Yeah, this will be for Coach McDonald. I just wanted to ask the receivers you have coming in, they all bring something a little different. I know Crowell and Baldwin are a little bit bigger, and then Julian Gray is just blazing fast. How important is that when you bring in a class of receivers to have guys that maybe bring some different kind of skill sets from each other?
I think it's really important. You know, I think we've, in the past, since I've been here, we've tried to get big physical guys that can match up on the edge, which they've done a good job. So the last couple of years with Coach Glasscock's help, we've really been trying to just get more guys with speed who can do a little bit more after the catch. And I think all these guys have that trait, with Gray being, you know, track fast. I think Crowell, you know, Coach hit on it. You know, he does a really, really good job of creating plays in space and creating the plays after he's gotten the ball in his hands. And then Jacoby, we've had him at camp. You know, he does everything well, you know, so I'm excited to get those three guys here and add them to the mix and keep getting better at the wide receiver spot.
Matt Carter.
Yeah, I have one for Coach Wild and one for Coach Guess. And Coach Wild, can you talk about the other D lineman you got from the state, Travali Price? And then for Coach Guess, and what are you kind of expecting out of Chandler Javala, kind of coming in as a grad transfer, trying to prove himself at a higher level? What kind of expectations do you have for him?
I'll talk about Travali real quick. Explosive kid that can be I think, play all three downs for you. Has played a lot of football in high school, was a tremendous player as a 10th grader too. So obviously didn't get, you know, he missed his senior season, but has played a lot of ball and has really worked hard to get bigger, stronger, and faster. So explosive, and you can see in his numbers. I mean, I think it was 22 TFLs, you know, 11 sacks. So the kid has some playmaking ability. Very, very excited about him.
Yeah, with Chandler, really excited about him coming in. You know, I think the biggest thing, and you kind of alluded to it, is he wanted the opportunity to prove himself at the next stop, the next level. And you know, he's one of those guys. You know, you look at him right now, he's 6'5", 320 pounds. And if you look at, you know, a full length body shot of him, he doesn't look, you know, he doesn't look that. He holds the weight really well. He's a guy that loves to train. He loves to compete. Very serious about this opportunity. And, you know, I think it was a great fit. Obviously, having his mom here was a big part of that, but really excited about what he's going to bring. And a guy that's, you know, a veteran player that was, you know, an all-conference player, obviously at that level, but a guy that's played a lot of football and going to be able to come in and have an immediate impact for us. So excited about what he's going to be able to do for us.
Does anyone have any other questions for our staff? All right, I appreciate all you guys getting on here. I know it's been a long day, long week, long year. So appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Congrats, coaches.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.